And I would like to present to you Dr. Nandini Azad, who has already been introduced. Probably she can add one or two words about herself. As Nadine, you proceed to make your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my dear friend Esther, and to all my sisters in Africa, greetings for fighting the COVID with great courage from the Asia Pacific region. I would like to congratulate the director, Madam Sifa, yourself, and of course the VFECT, particularly as you're the first regional committee to have made such a good webinar. So congratulations and a lot of clapping for you. Because, this is a very, important juncture to share, because, we cannot communicate because of the social distancing. But sharing is so important, what these continents are doing, and Asia, Pacific, and Africa, there are so many similarities. I'm here because of the Gender Equality Committee. This is the dedicated committee in the International Cooperative Alliance, which is looking at the gender equality issues, and there's much more to the committee. And I'm sure I can answer that during the course of the time, during the course of the question and answer session. And I'm also the chair of the Women's Committee of the Asia Pacific, and on the GEC, the Gender Equality Committee. But, one of the things I'm very proud of is that in 50 years, the International Raiffeisen Union, which is one of our biggest, oldest cooperative unions, had me as their first woman member after 50 years. So there was a lot of work that I had to do, but I'm so glad that, this is the oldest committee, which really began from the farmers' movement and from the, problem of exploitation of moneylenders, etc., which is very common to all our countries. Now, let me start. I'm going to make two presentations because, I believe in theory and practice. So I'm going to give you some practice before I quickly pull it up for you on the subject matter that you have given me. While the overall corona numbers are partial to men, for something that, they are partial to this time, and while women's numbers in some continents are much less. As somebody mentioned, we are the frontline workers. I call them the heroines of COVID. These women workers who are working as health workers, caregivers at home, and triple burden. Two burdens, and all of us, I'm sure Madam Sifa agrees with me, and other people, that with the two, she said, people who have little housing, it becomes a third burden. So we've got three burdens, all of us, particularly women, and very dynamic of Madam Sifa to have this. And I think because you're a woman director, and I shouldn't be saying it, but I will say it, that you could bring in this webinar, which nobody else has brought in the last 3-4 months. And really congratulations to you. Because in spite of the fact that they are not partial to us as numbers, we are the worst sufferers. Women are the worst sufferers. So I'm going to give you first the practice, how we fought this on the ground. Because while I'm an academic, I'm first a practitioner and an activist, having been born to a legendary cooperator all over Asia, and a feminist. So therefore, I must talk on the ground first, because for Africa, that will be quite useful. Now, I come from, as I said, the Working Women's Forum and the Indian Cooperative Network for Women. We have 600,000 people, and I said 4 states, like 4 countries of Africa, a little bit more even. And we've given $5 billion US in small loans. No joke at all. And a repayment rate of 97%. We are a little bit cribbing now because the repayment has gone to 90%. So our women are fighting to keep their bank alive. And most of us, it's been the hardest part of our life, keeping all our institutions alive. And I'm sure many of the women here are doing that because it's a question of survival. There is no other way. Now, what do we do apart from that? One of the things I think, my sisters from Africa, please listen. Gender-based violence, Cooperative should start having a unit on that, and that's what we did. We ran helplines at the worst times of the lockdown, because you can give loans, you can take savings, because when there is no livelihood, you have no other option but to be at home, and you know what partner abuse is. So kindly, we did the first conference last year in the Asia Pacific on gender-based violence and Cooperative. a hitherto taboo subject because people were not talking about it. But there are no sexual harassment committees also in our own cooperative. So where will we go and preach? But being a women's only cooperative for us, all CEOs women, the governing board women, all workers women, organizers, you can imagine if you have 600,000, how many, unpaid, voluntary workers and how many we have. Now, the other thing that we did is we do a lot of entrepreneurial training, which are continuing it. We're doing digital training now. How are people going to take their savings? How are people going to come and give it back? Teach them Google Pay, RuPay, that is for the rupees. Do that because that's the way they'll this thing. So what we found is that the loaning has not started for us in the last 3 months. It's very, very bad for them and bad for us too. But on the other hand, what we did was on the first day of the lockdown, everybody stunned and shocked. And what we did overnight, we got 150 IDs for our staff. We are informal units. We don't have too many IDs. Everywhere there were barriers. Nobody was allowing us. The police, the enforcement. So I sat nearly 1,000 kilometers we work apart. I talked at every district and every provincial level and talked about how our e-passes and mobility should be given, fighting to the Prime Minister's office, fighting to our local governments. And got passed. Once we got our mobility passes, because credit is an essential service. So we were able to help our women with vitamin C, with Ayurveda concoctions, as well as we could also help them with their savings, with their masks, with everything. So that was a very big thing for us and we connected with them, giving them the awareness, where do you go and what do you do? Now, the other thing I would like to tell you is that this sort of maneuvering we have to do innovatively. There is no doubt. You have to fight it through if you want to keep your institutions alive at that worst times of lockdowns, because every lockdown, the informal sector workers and the formal sector, both of them have suffered during the lockdowns. And right now, we have shoot of 10% of our entrepreneurial growth. Now, in terms of malnourishment, food security, women are the worst sufferers. You got these 5 people sitting in the house now, and they are, doing their online study. Otherwise, the food rations given by the government gave very good rations. So therefore, we were checking it. Check it. Tell your governments to give the rations. Check it at the bottom and write to whoever is concerned, because that's advocacy now. It's not only speaking for me at the webinar internationally, but you've got to do that for the women right there. Now, first of all, they have no incomes. And if they had, like, say, cows, and they had dairy, and they were doing fishing, that was possible. Nobody would stop them. But who's buying? People are getting worried to touch the fish. They're getting worried to do the milk. So you have to look at the stigma question in this also for the entrepreneur's income to come. Now, after we did all of this, we found that the connection was established with our cooperative members. Then the Union Health Minister invited me to tell me how we were doing this. So I gave him data. When we are talking about data, cooperatives have a lot of data if you're digitalized and you have software. So I gave him data which nobody could give. This was the national consultation. And I told him, sir, we took a 10,000 member review in 3 days by the telephone, by internet and digitally, found that the cities are more affected. There are nothing in villages. That was in May. Today, it is reversing. The migrants are going back and they are giving the corona to their, in the villages too. Then we told them how, so we gave them such vital data that, and Ayurveda. Ayurveda means that we were giving the indigenous products, which is a way of life in India, the turmeric, the ginger, and the holy basil and all of that put together and making it a concoction that was cheap and locally available. So therefore, you see the plant protein and iron were a very, very difficult thing. Now, another thing that I wanted to tell you is that we have been doing, complete writing. Every time the NGOs were not allowed, the cooperatives were not allowed, we were fighting with everybody. With the Home Minister, with the Prime Minister, with anybody. And that is the only way they had response. Nobody was sending responses to them. People were battling. So that gave us a lot of strength because they started having a nodal officer in each province. Then we could approach them and so many things. So all I'm saying is, let us look at this pandemic also as an opportunity. You have the Ayurveda that now has perked up everywhere, strengthening women's immunity. They can buy it. That is low cost. Now, I'd like to say, while you're talking about data collection, we have done the first Asia Pacific data collection many years ago. I did that again 5 years ago. So I think, first of all, do a basic data, gender disaggregated data collection. We're willing to help you. And you tell us exactly, you know what the first situation of gender is, and pandemic is one. When you're collecting for the pandemic, I'll give you 3 variables that you can collect on. The differential rate of infection by gender, differential income impacts, the incidence of domestic violence, abuse by gender. This would be very useful to you. Now, what are the other variables that you can use in gender collection, gender data collection? Preventive, curative, nutrition and immunity building strategies, livelihood, credit loan, savings. What is helping them say? How are they getting their savings from you if they can't walk on because of lockdown? Are you digitally training them? Then reproductive and health issues, including medicine, vitamin C, pregnant women, children, sanitation and hygiene, basic needs, grocery. Find out all these details which we have. We have today because we have micro data for all our members. Then we are also encouraging television and other communication jingles in local languages. Again, English is not our language. So therefore, you have to go locally. Also, street theater songs on what COVID is and what it's doing to destroy the natural environment, our own lifestyles, and look at it as an opportunity, of course, where you get men to work. Take away the stereotyping and say, you guys work, you're sitting at home too. So the gender stereotyping, take this as an opportunity. Now, what about civil society organizations, cooperatives? We have to forget the divide. We all have to work together because here is a time that they're also working with people and we too. Now, also many governments, many parts of the world are not very comfortable with NGOs or co-ops. They're all having problems. So therefore, given that, kindly work with all your other network partners too, because the civil society can be a great strength. In terms of the social impact and economic response, liquidity. If you're running a credit cooperative society, look at liquidity. How are you going to get it? Are you going to get interim loans? Are you going to roll the savings? What exactly are you doing? Then also, the recovery of the government should not come on the backs of women. Because very often this happens that only the formal sector is taken care of in the informal sector. You'll have to keep fighting on this. Third is, money should go to women, cash transfers. If they're doing cash transfers going to men, no use. Again, there'll be drunkenness and there'll be wife beating at home. This is something we have to do. The other, now what is the impact of the crisis seriously on women? One is nutrition, food, she's the last to eat, and schooling for children, so everybody is sitting at home. Now, also, you have to look at the humanitarian and citizen response and what she takes care of the elderly. In our traditional societies, the woman has the 4th job of looking after the elderly. Now, you tell the government that wherever sectors that women are overrepresented and or underpaid, such as daily wage earners, small business owners, those working in cleaning, caring, in the informal economy must be targeted, not whatever they think. Who are those people in the decision making who are making the recurrent responses? Make sure, as somebody said, Esther said, though there are hardly any women in any decision making positions. So make sure that they are heard. Write, keep writing. Emails there 10 times, 20 times, because this is a serious crisis. We're going to lose a lot of people. Now, awareness and information, I've said it. Keep communicating and keep communicating through various sources, to very poor women who are not read. Now, why is the impact hitting women hardest? One is the quarantine and lockdowns. 10 days, you have a better business. 10 days, she has no business. All her savings are depleted. There is nothing, there's no food on the table. And she's watching her children, be hungry. The government's rations are not that important. They are not coming in a big way. They are there to feed 3 people, not 10. And many of our families, that there are 10. So therefore, I think that they should look at, in quarantines and lockdowns, travel, tourism, restaurants, and food production. These are where our women are, the informal markets and agriculture. So you must make sure that they don't have health insurance, they don't have many other insurance. See that they get some of that. Now, also health and safety, somebody has said, maternal, but also look at the menstruation aspect. Also look at the contraception aspect as far as women are concerned. Now, now I'm going to finish off and say hotlines and cooperatives for gender violence started everywhere, every unit, because this is a pandemic more than COVID. So you see in Chile, for example, that there's a whole movement up there of women who are saying that our democratic rights are being subjugated at this time, saying it's COVID. No, be very careful, and you have to assess your own political institutions. So therefore, please influence all your leaders, women, men also. You have so many allies in the moment who can help us. Non-stereotyping, of the housework. Get the boys to do it. Get the men to do it. Here's a great opportunity to change this whole thing. So therefore, whenever the countries are having a response plan, get the women into it. Make sure you're on the planning commission, you're on your think tank or whatever, or influence somebody. Women-headed households and the elderly. So I would like to finish by saying, keep my 10 minutes, because I believe good soldiers are good leaders. So therefore, I would not like to take any more time. Like to congratulate you. Keep fighting. This is the message from Asia Pacific and the GEC. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nadine, for that very powerful presentation from the Asia Pacific region. And we really appreciate, and I'm sure people are already noting the questions that they are going to ask. We have that minute at the end where we are going to interact with the questions.